Good afternoon. Today I just want to tell you welcome for coming and looking at the video for a start. I'm just going to tell you basically how I got around Australia. Not real detail, but basically how it occurred and what I was thinking and how I met people, and it's only a really brief discussion of what happened. So I left Adelaide and went down through the bottom, through the Investigator Straits to Althorpe Island, and anchored there and took photographs, and up through Wedge Island to Thistle Island on the other side of South Australia, then up to Port Lincoln and met friends. I think the best part of the whole journey, when people keep asking me what was the best place in Australia, it was just meeting people and seeing what fantastic people Australians really are, and how they're misrepresented in the media quite a bit. The media's got no relation to the real Australian out there. I went to Port Lincoln and fished that area for whiting. I went over to the islands, and most of the islands around there, and back into Port Lincoln, met my friends, had a few beers and spent about a month there. Then I went round the west coast to Coffin's Bay. Coffin's Bay is another place famous for its oysters. Met some fantastic people there, crayfishermen, other people. They all helped me in some way. Then I went up to Flinders Island, and then I had advice from crayfishermen where to anchor, and it was sage advice as it turned out, because one night in Homestead Cove I was anchored in a position, and a guy called Johnny Theakstone come along in his crowboat and said, "Don't bother anchoring there, mate, come out with me." I went and anchored out with him, and I blew 40 knots in northerly that night. I was shit myself, he was sound asleep, but to me, it got up in the morning and was breaking right along the entrance to get out. They used to surf it, so for me it was all new thing, this South Australia, but the crayfishermen, just normal procedure. Then I went from Flinders, I went up to Streaky Bay and tied to the end of their mile-long wharf. It's probably not a mile long, but it seemed like it when you're drunk. And met all the locals there and had a fantastic time in Streaky Bay. A lot of help from the locals, a lot of friends made, lovely place, and used Streaky Bay as a base to go up to Flinders Islands, Macillan Island, the Franklin Island, Port Sinclair, or Cactus, is just over the hill, the famous surf spot. I travelled around there for a month or so till a surfer told me that the start of June the wind in the Great Australian Bight turned northeast and was behind you, so I got ready to leave to cross. Probably the biggest challenge for a start was the Great Australian Bight. The Great Australian Bight took me 4.5 days to get across, and I kept awake the full way, and I kept away by using Einstein's theory of you don't need to go into deep sleep. And people might call me crazy. I've been called crazy worse things actually, but every time I felt tired I sat down and put a keyring on my finger. You'll see it on episode 1, and Einstein reckons you don't have to go into a deep sleep to get a good sleep. So every time I dropped into a deep sleep, the keys hit the floor and I woke up. It usually took about a quarter of an hour. It was a quarter of an hour cat nap. So for 4.5 days, that's how I went across the Bight. I didn't go down into my lounge or bedroom once. The only time I moved was to go into the engine room every 3 hours to take temperatures and check the engine. So there are anchorages all the way across the Bight inside, but I went straight across. There's dramas involved. I left too early. I mean, if I left a day later, it would have been perfect, but I got panicky. And I thought if I leave early, I'll get a good start. But I got bashed, and I lost off the back of the boat. I had a big rubber ducky, and it got bashed off the boat, and I lost it. I couldn't get it back. I was just so tired. I just couldn't get it back on board, so I let it go. And 4.5 days later, I arrived in Esperance, and a friend of mine set up a mooring for me and lowered me his dinghy, which is was a fabulous thing for him to do. he probably doesn't think it was a great thing, you know, such a great thing. To me it was. And I stayed in Esperance for 7 days. I was that tired from staying awake that I slept for 7 days on end. I slept for 11 hours, and my brain was just quite dead. But anyway, after 7 days, I looked at the weather again. It was all about planning. It was all about what the weather was doing, how much fuel I had to complete the journey, and planning, looking, seriously looking where I was going, how long it was going to take me. And the other thing was tides, particularly as later on I got to New South Wales and their river bars. Tides become extremely important, and the Kimberleys. The tides, not the depth of tide so much in the Kimberleys, it was the flow. Because when it flowed around Cape Londonderry, or this is further on of course, but I'll just quickly explain it to you, the current was so strong you had to travel with it. So there's a lot of planning involved further north. Anyway, I went to Albany and I had a leak in the engine room. We slipped the boat at MU Bay shipyards, and a terrific shipwright there working on his own. Put her up in the slip, tapped up a few seams, fixed a plank on the side of the boat that had been leaking all its life apparently, and put it back in the water. And a friend of mine there, Mark Scriven, loaned me his dinghy, his ute. I got food. I had some tremendous help from fishermen in Albany, loaning me the equipment. One guy loaned me equipment. He was out fishing, didn't even know who I was. And you know, I was thinking, these people are just so nice. It turned out, whether it was South Australia, West Australia or Queensland, they're all the same. And that's why I kept saying the best part of the journey was the people I met. So once again I looked at the weather, decided when I was on admission to go to West Australia, so I went round the corner, up through the bottom. Good weather it was, beautiful. We just looked at the weather forecasts, lovely weather. Went round to Eagle Bay and then into Bunbury for 3 or 4 days, anchored in there, lovely anchorage in the harbour. I quite liked Bunbury, loved it. Then went up to Rottnest Island and waited to get a berth in Mindarra Keys where I live. And once I got in there, I spent a month in there, and then my wife decided she wanted to come with me. So people who know me know what I'm like. When I'm going, I'm going. I don't like pissing around or dragging someone behind me. Now my missus was really brave. She came with me and I said, we're going. We only got about 2 miles out the harbour, and she said, oh, the swells are a bit big. It was only about 2 or 3 metres. So anyway, I went up to the Abrolhos Islands, and it was very windy at the Abrolhos. We picked up public moorings all the way through the Abrolhos. It was fantastic up there. Okay, so if you like this video or you're interested in anything, just leave comments in the bottom and we'll deal with it. I'll deal with the comments. You know, like someone said to me the other day, I think you probably spent more than $6,000 on beer. Well, 68 cartons, I probably did, you know. If you want to ask that question, I'll tell you exactly, because I've got good records on how much I drank, except when it got a bit fuzzy and I forgot to count. You know, so that sort of thing. If you've got questions, at the end of the video on YouTube, make comments. Okay? It's all good.